Welcome back. It wasn't that long ago that Kim Olson was commanding a squadron of American warplanes in hostile airspace. These days, she's shifted to a different kind of battle, a Democratic campaign to become our state's Commissioner of Agriculture. Wife, mother, farmer, and one of the first female pilots in the United States Air Force. Colonel Kim Olson brings a lot to the table. This morning, we welcome you to the hot seat.
Thank you, Greg.
Okay, what is Republican Sid Miller doing wrong, and what at a fundamental level would you do differently?
Well, I think there's a couple things I would address. First of all, ag is a $106 billion worth of revenue for our great state. 1 in every 6 jobs in this state is done in ag, and ag is basically one of the economic engines of our great state. So I want a professional leader that represents the hard work that the farmers and the ranchers are doing out in the field. Number one. Number two, I don't care what anybody says, a cupcake is not a breakfast of champions. And we visited a school yesterday in spring, and I guarantee you there are no deep fat fryers in any of our school systems because our kids are on a fast track for type 2 diabetes because we're not feeding them appropriately. So we're going to tackle the food thing. And the third is there's a lot of things going out in our rural Texas, and Texas was built on the back of rural Texans. And if you want to know what they need, you got to go visit them. I've been to 103 counties in this state. I've talked to farmers, ranchers, sit at family dinner tables, and what they're telling me is they need broadband internet because you can't start a business, go to school, finish school, or even do telemedicine without it. So these are things that you learn when you hit the trail and you walk the fields and the farms.
Well, let's extend on that. When they grab you and they said, hey, she's going to listen to me, I've got her ear, what are they telling you? What's the biggest problem out there with what Austin's doing or not doing?
Well, a lot is Austin looks at its urban setting, which is where most of the folks live, but there's all of rural Texas out there. They have needs, they're proud of their towns, and here's the deal. Everybody thinks agriculture is just about farming and ranching. If you eat, you're in ag. Right? You wear clothes, you're in ag. You put gas in your car, you're in ag. All of us are consumers of agricultural products, and the consumer is actually the most important person in ag. So again, all of us are in agriculture. So you have to represent all Texans. Really, this position is an agency. It really isn't red, it really isn't blue. It really is about what's red, white, and blue, which means what's best for Texas, and having a strong economic backbone, like I said, which is agriculture, is important to all Texans.
Okay, water planning, rural internet, you just mentioned that, organic farming, all 21st century issues you're bringing to the table in this race. Why? I mean, is that something that folks out there care about?
It is, and here's what I would offer to you. Agriculture and food is a national security issue. Right now in the United States of America, we export 50% of our products and import 50%. As soon as that thing gets in balance, we're going to be beholden to the nation that feeds us. That's what makes us a powerhouse as a country. Look, I'm a senior retired military officer. We have the best military in the world, but it's our capacity to grow and feed our own population that makes us as powerful as we are, and we need to remember that and support that. And I say about water, look, you can live without your lawn. Agriculture can't live without water, and you can't live without agriculture. So we have to be better consumers of that incredible resource, which is our water. And when you talk about organics, there's a space for organic growing, there's a space for mechanized growing, there's a space for conventional growing. All those things have to work together. It's not one or the other. Again, that's why it's important that folks vote the person, because we're all in ag and we all eat. Okay,
politics. In many ways, this race is about character. Earlier this year, your opponent appointed a major campaign contributor named Ricky Ray Redolin, I believe, to the Rural Health Task Force, despite the fact that his medical license had been revoked in 3 states and he married his 15-year-old stepdaughter. Now, that's just for starters. Sid Miller was also caught up using public dollars for personal travel. He paid that back. I could go on. Do you think Texans are paying attention to the ethical cloud?
Well, I think Texans are paying attention to who is going to represent them in Austin and, by extension, in D.C. And I think Texans have earned and deserved a leader who will work just as hard as they do in the fields and the farms or wherever they are in their respective jobs. And I think that America and Texans alike have stood up and said, we want reasonable leaders in office. And again, vote the person. This isn't about right or left issues. This is about all Texans all the time. And that's why this position has to represent all Texans. And about who you surround yourself with is a reflection of who you are. I don't care, you know, what you say. And I think that's what Texans have to remember. And so, again, I want to establish the professionalism that is that office. I want to establish representing those that work in the fields every day and bring us our food. And I want to make sure that folks are educated about how important agriculture is to their daily life.
Hey, you shared something with me. You were at the Pentagon when the plane struck on 9/11.
I was.
Share just a couple of thoughts about that.
So here's what I would tell you about 9/11. Like most Americans, we were watching the Twin Towers take their hit. We pushed outside, and they knew the 4th aircraft was missing. They told us to get down, and just then an F-16 flew overhead and wrapped itself around that ascending column of smoke. And I was so proud that I could be a pilot, and I was so proud I wore a uniform. But I'll tell you something, Greg, it was the next day that reminded me how proud I was an American, because 15,000 people showed back up in that building that burned for 4 more days. The stories of our life are not 9/11, they are 9/12. What do we do the next day? It judges you as a person, as a community, as a nation, as a party, and even as a state.
Kim Olson, thanks for taking the hot seat.
You're
Hope
welcome,
come
Greg.
back.
All right.